blacks are overrepresented in violent crimes and murders. Okay. Black people commit about 52% of the murders. You're saying, well, it's because of the poverty. Okay, fair enough. But however, even if you look at the rates of income when it comes to households, blacks are the lowest, and then Hispanics are the next one. But Hispanics don't commit nearly the same murder rate as blacks, even though we're in the same population, and they don't commit nearly the same as violent crimes as black people, even though we're in the same population.
They do in Mexico.
I'm talking about the United States.
What about the cartels?
Yeah, well, the reason why, hold on. The reason why in Mexico is because 99% of them are Mexican. That's why. The population is 99% Mexican, so no shit, 99% will be crimes. Oh my God, dude. Hold on. No, Fatty, you're pivoting. Hold on, Fatty. Am I talking about Mexico or am I talking about the United States?
Sir,
Fatty, am I talking about Mexico or the United States?
Cartel for black Americans. Okay. Every person has a baseline of insults, right? You know what actually white people take very offensive when you call them something? What? Nazis. If I go to a white person and I call them a Nazi, I guarantee you 99% of
did Lily Gabbins did Lily Gabbins insult take that as an insult on Pierce Morgan?
No, you don't need to interrupt me because I'll let you talk. You have all these, this habit of every time you get caught, you start to over talking people. If I go ahead and I call Nazi to a white person, they are going to take tremendous offense to it because you are representing the worst of them. There's no worse thing that you can call a white person than a Nazi because people want to literally separate themselves from that shit. They say, don't put that shit on me, man. That shit is trash. The nigger with the R-E-R is going to be problematic too. Nobody wants to be associated with the worst of the worst, especially if you're not one of the worst. You are talking about Ben Shapiro. If I go to his shit and I call him the Jew slur that rhymes with Ike, I'm going to be in trouble.
Oh, definitely.
Everybody's going to pick
You're going to be anti-Semitic, yeah.
Look at this black person being anti-Semitic.
The Jews do the same thing as you guys, yeah.
So Jake, I just proved that you are a liar.
How am I a liar?
Because you said black people are the only one that get offended by a
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then the Jews too.
And I just proved it.
Oh, the Jews too then.
With me. You literally agreed with me. There's more groups that will be offended by
the Jews and black people.
No, sir.
But you admit, hold on, by saying that, Fatty, you admit that black people do get offended by a word, correct?
Let me finish.
Okay, go for it.
If I go to a LGBT group and call them maggots, they will I'll disappear from this earth. They will cancel me so fast, it's not even funny. This is not exclusive to black people. Every fucking community has a word that they don't like other people to say. And if you, Jake,
what are the whites?
Ahead and go. What?
What slur is for the whites?
I literally told you they don't like to be called Nazis.
Nazis? So you think if you call, hold on. Let me ask you this, Fatty. If you go to an all-white neighborhood, I got a question.
If there's literally, if everybody is a Nazi, no one is a Nazi. There's a very dangerous precedent when you go ahead, and this is something that the right wing says. Y'all liberals are full of shit and y'all are crazy. Every time a conservative says something you don't like, you are a Nazi. You are the mustache man. That shit is dangerous rhetoric. You shouldn't be using that shit at all. And you guys literally correct people on the left side all the time for comparing people that just have conservative values to the motherfucking Nazi party. So what are you talking about?
So let me ask you this question. If you go to an all-white neighborhood and you just scream the word Nazi, what do you think would happen?
On the South? On one of
those just a random white neighborhood, the average white neighborhood. You go to the average, hold on, Fatty. Here's my question. You go to an average white neighborhood in the middle of the street and you just scream the word Nazi. What do you think would happen?
So average means that their income, they are
the majority of white people neighborhood.
No, you can't, because
so you don't want to answer the question.
No, I will answer that.
Okay.
If I go to average hardworking white people neighborhood and I say that word, probably nothing will happen to me. Probably they call the cops and say there's a crazy.
So you're proving
person
my point. Okay,
that.
good.
No, you know why I'm not proving that? Because because what you like to do, Jake.
What do I like to do?
You pick up the worst of us, right? The neighborhood where people are disenfranchised and actually are more susceptible to aggressive behavior, and you say, if I say something next to these people are going to fuck me up. The average Amazon worker is going to record you. The affluent black person, if you say nigga next to LeBron James' son, he's not going to do nothing to you. He says, get away out of me, black. Get away from me. You crazy.
That's not true.
Well, hold on, OJ. Hold on. Just shut up, OJ.
Let me finish, please. The same way I don't judge you I don't say, see, I went to the cartel members and I said wetback and they fucked me up. That means that Jake and OJ are going to do exactly the same, because if the cartel members do it, they probably do it too. No, it's not true. And if that was true, those people that when she said the N-word multiple times, she said, say it again. Where is the punch? Where is the punch, right? Where is the punch? If that's the case, right? Where are the people from this blonde lady, the Lily something lady that keeps using the N-word? Why is she not attacked? Why is Myron?
If she was a man, she would have got attacked.
Why is Myron Gaines not attacked? He's always on the street. Why is Nick Fuentes not attacked? He's always on the street.
He did get attacked.
Why are these people keep saying these words online and in public, and you say it too, and nobody gets attacked? Why? Answer that, please. Go ahead, you got this.
Okay, so really quick, man. So earlier in the podcast, and I'll answer the question. Why don't Nick Fuentes gets attacked? I remember the question. So really quick. Earlier in the podcast, you asked me, Jake, why don't you just fucking go and say the N-word in front of black people? Why don't you just go to a middle of a neighborhood and say the N-word? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because I'll get attacked. And I know that for a fact. Fatty, you agreed. You said, yes, that is true. Because yes, you do. You literally did. You said, yes, that would be the case.
Hey, Jake.
Bro.
Jake, you know why you're lying? Because my example is this. You can own the black card. Not by going on the street and saying the word nigga. Go to a black barber shop. Grab your motherfucking phone, record that shit, and say the word nigga inside.
Fatty, that wasn't my point. Fatty.
Hey, Jake, I used this several times with you on the panel.
Fatty, listen to my hypothetical. Fatty. Listen to what I'm saying here. I'm talking about.
You are lying.
Fatty, I'm not lying, bro. Listen. Earlier in the podcast, you said go ahead and say that in front. Oh, Jake. Oh, you're saying that you only say that online and you're not going to say that in real life, live up to what what you believe, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, fucking wouldn't do that in real life. Fuck no. And then you said, why? Or I asked you, what do you think would happen? You're going to get chipped or clipped or whatever Nino said. And I said, yes, I agree. I am going to get fucking violated. I'm going to have violence come upon me. Okay. That's what it is. Right. So when I asked you,
I said
checked. Thank you.
That's not necessarily violent.
Okay.
That's not necessarily violent.
Oh, you think checked? Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. So let me ask you a clarifying question. Nino, let me ask you a clarifying question. When you say you're going to get checked, do you mean that black people are going to come out and say, hey, young man, don't be using that word. That's very offensive. They're going to be wagging their finger. Is that what checking means? What does that mean?
They don't wag their finger. They're going to say, hey, man, watch your mouth.
Okay. And they're going to, watch my mouth. And then I say nigga again.
Then
you get popped.
Okay, great. Then I get popped. Great. So, so then you guys agreed with that. So going back to my next question, an hour later, I said, hey, if you go to the average white neighborhood, Fatty, and you say Nazi, you said, no, nothing's going to happen to you. They might just fucking call the cops because there's a crazy person saying, interrupting the neighborhood. Cool. Do you see the difference? Hold on. Do you see the difference between an average neighborhood and the scenario that we saw earlier? Where you said you're going to get checked. Don't be saying that. And then, I say it again, they'll check me. Here's the difference. If you're in a white neighborhood, fucking just screaming Nazi and being a lunatic, you're going to get the cops called on you. Okay. For disrupting a neighborhood. Okay. That's harassment. Cool. That's under the law. What black people do, and you prove my point here, is that they will take the law into their own hands and check you, hit you, bro. That was my point. Hold on. That was my point, Fatty.
Let me explain you why you checkmated
Okay,
yourself.
go ahead, Beans checkmark guy. Yeah, go ahead. Use his tactic. Go ahead.
This has nothing to do with race. This has to do with the socioeconomic neighborhood that you are at. Let me give you an example. If most people either live on the poverty line, or very close to it, right, and they live in these dangerous neighborhoods, is more probability of you meeting the average random black person on those neighborhoods that are going to take matters by their own hands. Because white people on average actually get more money than black people, and they're probably not on these neighborhoods. It's more probable than you're going to find a white person that is not going to do that. But when you remove all the equalize, which is the money, the moolah, right, and we have a poor a poor white trailer park people, or you have people that live on the south, on Alabama and Oklahoma with 7,000 guns and the Confederate flag, and they just are spitting on the ground and sitting on their porch. If I go to the porch of that person and say, "Hey, motherfucker,
Nazi,"
they are not calling the cops too. They are going to take them.
Well, it sounds like you're trespassing. So yeah, that would be appropriate actually for them to do that.
Respectfully,
you said you went on their porch, of course.
Let me finish, please. The deterrent is always the socio-economic group, because I guarantee you, if you go to a motherfucking the suburbs where people have $400 houses, and you go on the street and you say, "Nigga," everybody calling the cops too. Nobody have it outside to say, "You know what, Jake, I'm going down the stairs and punch you." So it's about money.
So really quick. So you're saying that it's not necessarily that. It's because black people are just poor, and that's why they act that way. Because they're so poor, they act like savages. That's what you're saying.
That's what I said. That's not what I said.
Well, you said it's a class thing. You said it's a money issue. You just did a whole rant about it. You just excused their. You just excused.
Let me explain to you. Let me explain to you,
bro.
Hey, Jake, I'm not expecting a redneck hillbilly from the south, right, that lives on poverty, to have the same reaction
because of money. Because of money.
A person in New York, a white person in New York, earning $150,000.
Because of money. Because of money. Cool. I agree.
It's about money and culture.
Okay, fine. I'll agree with that. I'll concede to that. Now, Fatty, when you say, well, black people act this way and they'll beat you up because they're poor, I'm be like, okay, fine. Well, if you look at, that's what you're saying. It's because of money that on why they act this way, right? You just made a whole spurg about it.
A big prevalent on crime, especially violent,
is because of money.
With poverty, people.
Okay, great.
In poverty,
great. So
don't commit violent crimes. Yes.
So black people, because they're in poverty, then therefore that's why they're committing so many crimes, right?
No, that's not. Oh my God, Jake.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let me re-explain. Okay, with better words. Let me re-explain with better words. Yes. You're saying because this neighborhood is poor, and I go into that neighborhood and scream out the N-word, because they're in poverty, this is why they'll come over here and say, "Hey, don't be saying that. They're going to check me." And then I say it again, and then they'll beat me up. And the reason for that is because they're poor, right? That's your argument.
What I said is, again, there's a higher chance of that happening. You want a definitive statement. You want me to say, if you are in a poor neighborhood and you go there and you say the N-word.
You literally use that example with white people. If you go into a white neighborhood and you're screaming out Nazi, then they'll beat you up. You use that same example. So therefore it's money. That's your point.
Jake,
bro.
The probability is higher.
Okay, higher. Great.
Higher.
So therefore it's because of money.
It doesn't mean exactly that I'm going to do this and the guy's not looking at me and say the same thing that the rich dude said. This guy is crazy. The probability is definitely higher because violent crime is correlated to the amount of money and the neighborhood.
That was my point. So then I have it right. I steel manned you correctly. Great.
So go ahead.
Okay, great. So I steel manned you correctly. Are we clear that's what you're saying, right? Doesn't mean
yes, probabilities.
Okay,
yes.
okay. So the probability of you committing more crime is through money, right? Fair enough. And you said, okay, because blacks are the poorest, therefore they commit the most crime. Okay, fine. Or they're more violent. They're more willing to hurt you because of the N-word.
Do you disagree?
Yes, I do. So hold on, bro. Bro. Let me talk. I just let you spurg.
Do they continue to commit crimes?
I just let you, bro.
Do they commit crimes?
I just let you spurg out. Okay.
Answer the question and then you got it.
No, look, the way you're explaining it, I disagree. The premise of you blaming money completely because of that is where I disagree. However, I do agree. Hold on, Fatty. I let you spurg out. Let me talk. Let me talk, bro. Shut up. Okay, I let you spurg out. Shut up. When you say money's a correlation of that, I said, yes, I agree. Now, the way you're explaining it, I think there's a premise there that I think that I would say I disagree with, depending on how you're explaining it here. So let me just ask you this. If you're saying money correlates with the violence, which I would say, yeah, to a degree, I think that's a component. Fine, fair enough. Now, let me ask you this. When it comes to that poverty rate, the second most poverty areas of race is the Hispanic community. Okay.
Yes.
When you look at the crime dynamics and the crime statistics, black people, they're around the same amount of percentage as Hispanics. We can agree on that, right? I think Hispanics is a little bit more. I think they're around 15, 16. Blacks are 13. Okay, cool. But yet blacks are overrepresented in violent crimes and murders. Okay. Black people commit about 52% of the murders. You're saying, well, it's because of the poverty. Okay, fair enough. But however, even if you look at the rates of income when it comes to households, blacks are the lowest, and then Hispanics are the next one. But Hispanics don't commit nearly the same murder rate as blacks, even though we're in the same population, and they don't commit nearly the same as violent crimes as black people, even though we're in the same population.
They do in Mexico.
I'm talking about the United States.
What about the cartels?
Yeah, well, the reason why, hold on. The reason why in Mexico is because 99% of them are Mexican. That's why. The population is 99% Mexican, so no shit, 99% will be crimes. Oh my God, dude. Hold on. No, Fatty, you're pivoting. Hold on, Fatty. Am I talking about Mexico or am I talking about the United States?
Sir,
Fatty, am I talking about Mexico or the United States?
Cartel for black Americans. What is the similar? Give me one group that is as nasty and dangerous as the cartel in Mexico. Give me one.
So again, Fatty, when you want to bring up Mexico, okay, what's the percentage of Mexicans that are in Mexico?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'll tell you, it's probably over 95%.
Okay.
Great, right? So according to the population, 95%. Who commits the vast majority of crimes proportionate to their population? I would say, yeah, of course, Mexico. Same thing with China. There's a billion people in China, all right, with 2% are minorities. Yes, the vast majority of crimes will be Chinese people because of per capita, right?
Why is Mexico more violent than the United States?
Why is Mexico more violent than the United States?
Yes.
Probably because of the poverty rate.
Oh, so
but I agreed with that. I said I agreed. That's not my point, stupid. Listen, Fatty. Fatty. I never said that I agreed with you on that, Fatty. I said I believe that's a component. Yes, we could see that with other things. But I asked you this. When it comes to the Hispanic community, they don't have nearly the same crime rates. Because your argument was, the reason why they're committing so many crimes is because of the poverty. I said, okay, fine, if that's the case, and I believe that's a component for sure. And I said, well, Hispanics are around the same population as the blacks, and they commit way less crimes, murder and violent crimes, than black people. So if you're saying that the main component is because of wealth, then why is it that the Hispanics in the United States don't commit the same amount of crime as blacks? Why?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
I can.
No, Hispanics, Americans, bro, Americans.
I can answer that very quickly.
Go ahead.
The first generation of immigrants usually are the hardest workers. The problematic ones are their kids, right? If you look at the Italian community, for example, on the Irish community, for example, on the 30s, they were criminals. They were criminals. They had gang activity. They literally ran all this motherfucking shit when it comes to actually crime. It was not the black people that were doing this shit. It was the Irish and it was the Italian mafia. What happened when they rose themselves out of poverty?
That has nothing to do with what my question was.
Let me finish.
Go for it, bro.
Doing crimes. As soon as they got more money, as soon as their descendants actually could mix with the main population, get the same jobs, get housing and all that shit, what happened was they raised themselves out of poverty. What I said, Jake, was social economic. We already talked about the economic. Now we're talking about the social. Black people been stepped on for 400 years. Their relationship with white people is not the same as their relationship with the Latinos that come in. And we know that white people did a bunch of atrocities to Latinos too, and they stole land and all that shit. But y'all were in chain for 400 years, being raped, murder, lynch, and be putting on trees and says you go ahead and you pick up that shit. Because once again, we have a different relationship with white people. So when you come around and you say, why are we ahead that you are not? Because motherfucker, you came from a place willingly. You decided to come over here. You decided, you said, you know what? I live in poverty. I live on a gang-ridden community with the cartels terrorizing us and all that shit. So I am going to go ahead and look for a better place to live. So you are actually looking at the United States on a benevolent way because they're giving you an opportunity. Black people didn't have a choice. Either they were here and they were slaughtered, or they were put on boats and be brought here. And it's very reasonable that after 400 years of that shit, that you look at the system, that you look at infrastructure, that you look at all the things that were done to them, and they say, you know what? We understand. We need to do better, but there's the exact reason why black people are not behaving the same way in mass like white people are doing it. So, respectfully, where do you disagree, Jake?
Okay, so really quick, when you're talking about because Mexicans came into this country later, you made the argument that we had enough time to assimilate with white people, right? We don't have the history. Yes, they stole our land.
I thought you were white.
I'm not white.
I was white.
No,
yeah,
I'm
but
Hispanic.
But you can pass by one. You have to.
Are you just gonna filibuster or what, bro?
No,
Calm down, dude. I let you fucking rant for 5 minutes. Just shut up for two minutes. 2 minutes. Shut up. Just 2 minutes, bro. 2 minutes. Shut up.
I'm just saying the proof that you actually can do it is because every time people think that you are white, you have to go out of your way to say, I'm not white, I'm Latino. A Latino that doesn't speak Spanish anyway, but you still, once again, can mix up and go ahead and be a part of the culture like you are.
I know, that was my... Okay, fine, because we assimilated or we look towards that white people, whatever. Fine. But Fatty, let me just ask you a question here because you ranted on for fucking 5 minutes with a bunch of nonsense. Let me ask you this question, okay? You're saying, well, black people came into this country and we had to struggle here in the United States, which, by the way, you're not even American. You're over there in Portuguese, which I don't know the history on that, but I get you. Portugal.
Not Portuguese. Portuguese is a nationality. Thank you very much.
Right on. So Portugal, fair enough. So obviously your ancestors weren't taken over here in the United States, but just for the sake of argument, we're talking about black Americans, right?
They were a target of colonialism.
Okay.
White nations occupied my parents' country too for 400 years. So yes,
okay,
no,
fair
not
enough.
slavery, but it was actually colonialism. So thank you very much.
Okay, fair enough, bro. Fair
that
enough.
explains the 400 years because the United States hasn't been there for 400.
No, it's 200. Yeah, exactly.
But
really,
just to clarify that,
we're just clarifying it, bro. Fatty, hold on, dude. Chill out, bro. Stop going insane here. But okay, so
I'm glad that I'll calm you down.
Okay, man. So anyways, what I was going to say here is that you're saying, well, the evil white man went and took black people over here to the United States. They enslaved them. Then the evil white man also set them free. 100,000 soldiers died during the Civil War to set black people free. So it was a back and forth. Hold on. That's not my point here. But I'm going to ask you this, Fatty. Here's my question.
Yes.
If you, hypothetically, if you could push a button, all right, to where white people never bought your black people from Africa, never bought them and took them to the United States. They never took them to the United States. You can push that button right now, okay? And therefore, all of the struggles here in the United States of black people would never have happened from the white devil. Would you push that button?
No, because I believe in the butterfly.
Oh, so you
effect.
believe in black people being enslaved.
I wouldn't stop Hitler too. I wouldn't stop Stalin. I wouldn't stop Mao.
Oh, okay. So you just want to complain about it. So you wouldn't stop it, but you want to complain about it. Cool.
No, sir.
Yes,
sir.
dude. What the fuck? So you're like, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't stop the evil white man from taking my ancestors to the United States. But now that I'm here, I'm just gonna bitch about the white person now. But I wouldn't stop it. That's what you're saying.
I'm consistent all around.
No. Okay. Fine. Fair enough.
If respectfully, if Thanos came from space and the Iron Man and the Avengers stopped him, right? And 1 million people died, and they say, hey, Fatty, would you go back in time and stop Thanos from coming to Earth? I said, hell no. It's a butterfly effect. Things happen for a reason. As long as we keep surviving as a species.
What's that reason? Do you believe in God?
But no, butterfly effect means if you change something in the past,
I know that.
even if one thing, everything will be completely different, so you shouldn't touch it. That's
So why
that's
complain
literally
about
the
it?
But-
original
Why
crime.
complain
Is
about it,
somebody
though?
going in the past and change something,
Sure.
and now Jake doesn't exist
Sure,
because
Fatty.
your mama should be meeting your dad on a cruise in Miami, and there's no Miami. It's called Nevada now because you rearranged the history of the thingy. I wouldn't do
Oh,
it, and I'm consistent about it.
Okay,
What is the
Fatty.
point of that question? What is the point of that question?
Yeah, my point of the question is that when you sit there and spurg about the white man being the devil and all this fucking
said the
complaints,
white man is the
hold on,
devil?
hold on. When you spurg about how black people came to this country and they didn't have a chance and they're discriminated against and all this fucking bullshit that you were saying, okay? I would be like, okay, cool. If you could change it, would you? You said no because I don't want to fuck with the butterfly effect, which honestly is not even proven. Hold on, which honestly is not even proven. Okay, I get the theory; it's fair enough. But my point is that if you want to sit there and say no, I will not save my people of something that I am currently passionate about complaining right now, to where if my people weren't here in the United States, the N-word wouldn't even exist and your feelings wouldn't be getting hurt right now on the internet. You're saying I wouldn't push that button. I would not push that button. Therefore, now I can complain about white people on the internet and the N-word that's being used. That's what you want here. And I'm just saying, if you could prevent that shit, you wouldn't do it. So that tells me that you don't actually give a fuck about about people and the white devil taking them over. You just care. Hold on. You just care about fucking having them over here, and you being over here, and the white man is the devil, and they brought him over here. All this shit, and you just want to complain about it, bro. You just want to complain about it.